Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Energy Speaks Back, powered by B2B Energy. My name is Paul Webb, and I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm your host. And weekly, I present to you energy experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 145. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. Welcome, energy enthusiasts, to another enlightening episode of Energy Speaks Back. Today's guest is a seasoned expert in energy and sustainability, specializing within the hospitality sector. With a robust background in inspiring our industry, he brings a wealth of knowledge and innovation to the table as an energy management expert, essential for the future of the hospitality sector. So without any further ado, let's dive into the conversation with Fitzroy Hutchinson from the Celtic Manor Resort Group. Good afternoon, Fitz. How are you today?
I'm good, Paul. How are you?
Very good, very good. And it's really great to see you. And I can't believe this is the first podcast I've done on a bank holiday. So thank you very much for that.
I'm working, so it's not a problem for me. So yeah, I'm here anyway. So yeah, it's good.
Do you work most bank holidays? Is that the role in hospitality?
From my point of view, hospitality, because I'm kind of support services. I could take the day, but bank holidays are pretty much the one day where you can get lots done, but you're left alone, if
Right.
that makes sense. Yeah,
And
so
do,
I'm not front facing. I'm not dealing with clients and guests. I'm just literally in the background doing my bit. So yeah, but there's nobody asking me for anything because lots of people are off today as well. So
and is a bank holiday a typically busy day in the hospitality, or can it be?
normally it can be. It used to be. I think things have slowed down a lot. I think that people are a little bit cautious of late.
Mm,
And I think that a lot of that comes down to, the shrinking of disposable incomes. People maybe a little bit scared to spend money, or they're basically feeling the impacts of Christmas.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it tends to be quite busy.
And have we had the sort of rollout from COVID as well because of the changes in culture? Being hospitality, have you seen that impact on the hospitality world?
From an energy and sustainability point of view, yeah, 100%. So when I came into the business back in December 21, um, so the business has suffered. They've been, like everything, been shut down for 2 years. So there've been nobody in post banging the drum.
Yeah,
So I pretty much felt like I had to start from scratch. Um, there'd been some good work done by my predecessor, but where people had been at home or on furlough, just left to their own devices, they completely little forgot about the
yeah,
hospitality world. And then coming back in, it was really difficult trying to um, in some instances, getting individuals to basically understand again what we were trying to do as a business from an energy and sustainability perspective, and what their roles were in that in the grand scheme of things.
yeah. So Fizz, we've met at the Energy Conscious conference.
We did,
So
yes.
I know in the back of your mind that's a very big part of what you do. And so for the benefit of our audience today, could you tell us about some of your background story and maybe your origin story, how you got into this role in this industry?
Wow. So it was going back 2005. I was in sales. I got made redundant. And then it was a case of I needed to decide what I was going to do,
Hmm.
whether I was going to, yeah, um, was I going to take from society, or was I going to give something back?
Right.
Yeah. Um, I'd been in sales, like I said. So 2006, then I started on a temporary contract. with the NHS, and it was to do with invoice management, funny enough. Okay, which I took to naturally, so that was decent. But I like the role. I like the idea of making sure that one, consumption was right, bills were correct, which then naturally led on to looking at anomalies. Okay, anomalous consumption, trying to identify where that was coming from, trying to make then changes in terms of how we were controlling any underlying equipment that could have potentially been responsible, and then moving from that to identifying performance solutions along with behavioral change. Um, and I found that I started to like the role really quickly, to which point I asked the NHS if they would be happy to support me in developing. So I did the Energy Managers HND, which was scary. um, but I was successful in their support of me. I was also
Mm.
successful in achieving the qualification. Um, and then over time, I was with the NHS for 15 and a half years. So I
Right.
moved from one health board to another. Um, and both exactly the same, limited budget, but massive expectations from local government, and also from targets set against each organisation individually. But I think it was a good learning curve, from my perspective, from the behavioural change element of it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Pareto's law. So 20% of your people will deliver 80% of your savings. But ultimately, so my role is energy and sustainability manager. But the one thing that I know, from my perspective, and this is how I approach it, is that people are key, because people will have the ability to agree policy. People will have the ability to agree strategy, to make access to funds.
Hmm.
But people, I also try in creating a people to understand that if we can have a switch off culture, yeah, that this pretty much, and relate it to what we do at home,
Yeah.
that if we can have a switch off culture and that mentality, it'll stand us in good stead, because then it means that you're not reliant on technology to do all of the work. So it's, again, I think it's a balance between people behavior and technology. So that's kind of where I'm at today with it in terms of the energy and sustainability approach. Um,
Step. Can I just go
Go on.
step one back a little?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
You was in sales. What was you doing in sales? What?
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just interested because there was a big transition there, isn't there, into the energy
yeah,
sector?
yeah. So I was working for a company. Am I allowed to say the airport?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So I was working for a company called Udex, which was data synchronization
right.
between retailers.
Right.
Okay, supplier and retailer.
Right.
So effectively, what you would have had was one supplier who would have possibly been supplying multiple retailers, but that one supplier will have had to have created multiple data sets for each individual supplier.
Yeah.
When somebody just like had a light bulb moment and said, "Okay, you've got one product. Why don't you just have one data set that everybody uses?" And it makes everything so simple. It made massive savings because orders were correct. You could operate much better in terms of a just-in-time
Hmm.
ordering process, and a lot of that kind of worked in. It kind of does work in the energy and environmental,
Yeah.
because what you're trying to have is one version of the truth that you are then trying to deliver out into multiples of people, so that everybody understands exactly what's going on, what the short-term goals are, what the long-term goals are,
Mm.
okay, and what their roles are in all of this. So my overall job, the way that I look at it, is one of the jobs I've got is to create what I call a good environmental citizen. Okay, and letting people try to understand that in life they have environmental luggage, yeah, which is about that big currently. Okay, but what we're trying to do is get them to basically make that luggage smaller and take it down to there. Okay, so getting people to understand no matter where they are or where they go, that everything that they do will have an impact somewhere on somebody. And what we're trying to do is make that impact as small as is possible.
Yeah. Did you call it luggage or baggage?
Luggage.
But it's baggage, isn't it, as well? You
You
know,
can
what we
call you can
carry what we carry around with us
we
every
can
day.
yes, yeah, what we
If we
can.
could get rid of some of that baggage, what you don't need.
Ex
That's as you're
exactly.
talking, I'm just thinking, yeah, there's a lot of baggage that, we carry around every day that we don't need to,
But
and we can think about reducing.
when we've gone on holiday historically, let's call it what it is, right? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
potato, luggage, baggage. But when we've gone on holiday, you will have packed stuff you probably wouldn't even wear.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So and again, I can use the old analogy. Let's think work smarter as opposed to working, yeah, harder. But again, that does take time because you are trying to build a culture. You're
Mm.
trying to get people to be confident in what you're trying when you're trying to empower individuals. Because I'm saying to individuals that it's not just my job, it is your job, but it's also your job to encourage your colleague to also adopt the
Yeah,
same mentality and the same approach as you are. Because if you can do that, then the good work that you do is complemented by the good things that they do. And that's the big that's the overall task, I think.
yeah,
And when it comes to energy management, again, it's let me. So if we go back, so prior, and this is one of the things. So prior to COVID, I think when it came to energy management and sustainability, it was just bobbing along, kind of.
yeah,
Yeah, uh, different levels for different organisations and individuals. I think, but when we came out of so COVID basically introduced us to climate crisis. Yeah, so everybody understood
mm.
that what they what we needed to do as individuals, yeah, and what we needed to do as a nation, what we needed to do then globally. Um, from there on, then we came out of COVID, and then Russia decided to have a little bit of a set to with Ukraine. So now um, people have an understanding of the cost of
Yeah,
energy.
yeah,
Yeah, drastic changes. Okay, um, and then coming out of that war's still going on. Prices are still you're still at risk.
yeah,
Yeah, but people will have understood because they obviously, as I said, the climate crisis came around, but now people have felt it themselves. So now they understand what the message is and why when you engage with individuals, why you're doing it, that it's yes, it's about carbon, but there's also the cost element of it,
yeah.
you know. So you've gone from, we had a really, really good price here for energy, and that went up by nearly, in some instances, it went up by, well, let's have a look, 5 times the amount.
Yeah,
Yeah. But the way that we buy on a flex contract.
yeah, yeah.
So that stood us in good stead a little bit, you know. And we also were fortunate enough to be able to sell some energy back.
Right.
Okay. So we did quite well. We managed to do quite well. But the scary part was coming out of that contract, going now, like most people, into the real world, and then having to navigate the current pricing market.
Mm.
Um, Again, touch wood, done well. done well. Look at the market on a daily basis. Um, and it's all about, as you know, making the right decisions at the right time with that kind of contract.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was a bold move by the business and the right one, because had we gone into a fixed contract, I think it would have been a world of pain. It would have been a world of
Yeah.
pain for us. Yeah. So
And
yeah,
is that your role as well? You look at the
yeah,
pricing and
yeah. So I
right.
get reports daily from our supplier.
Yeah.
I follow LNG news so I can see what's going on there. I get multiple reports from different industry providers, so I get a, as best a picture as I can of where energy prices are moving. And then I'll make a judgment call. And then I'll go to my boss and say, look, I think this is a really good price. We have the ability to take advantage of where the market is currently. And I think as long as it allows me to beat the budget, that's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game, and not to get caught out. So
It's
yeah,
really refreshing hearing what you're saying there because I always say you can't manage the consumption and not manage the procurement and vice versa because you can make great savings on the unit price
oh,
and then forget about how much you're using. But you're doing both there, which I think,
but
massive pat
understand.
on the back.
Thank you, Paul. But but also understand that you can make really good wins on your prices.
Yeah,
Sorry, really good wins on your consumption and drive down your consumption. But if you haven't got a fix on that price, you could
forget about it.
still do worse than you did last year.
Yeah.
So
How
that's
many
always
Fitz, how many properties do you have? Because when you think of Celtic Manor, you think of one
okay.
hotel, but it's a group, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a collection. So we've got here at the main resort, and on the main resort we have several properties.
Right,
Yeah. As a hotel, then we've got the International Conference Centre of Wales,
right.
ICCW here,
Okay,
Calder Court, which is literally about a mile away, T Mega, Parkgate Hotel in Cardiff, and then we've also got T Milford in Pembrokeshire.
right,
In West Wales, and we're due potentially looking at adopting another property shortly.
right.
So that is um, that's the job, to manage the entire portfolio.
Yeah. And do you touch on the legislation side? So are you within SECRA and ESOS?
So
Does that come under
both,
your?
yeah, both. You know,
Why not do them
uh,
both? You might as
oh,
well, mightn't you?
I tell you, if I had my way, I would just do. If I could get ISO 14001, I'd only have to do one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'd only have to do one um, piece of legislation. Um, but it is what it is. So both give you um, a good idea of where you are, what you need to do. Yeah. But what I like about ISO, and no disrespect to ESOS, coming from the NHS, what I liked about ISO 14001, because it was mandatory for public bodies, was that you had to show continual improvement.
yeah,
So you couldn't, in ESOS back in the day, it was a desktop exercise. That was how it was perceived. And you didn't really have to do anything with it. But with ISO 14001, and so now currently we sit under Green Dragon, which is our environmental management system, that also demands um, continual improvement. And
right.
I'm quite fortunate to be in an organization where, from from a sustainability perspective, the drive is just that,
Yeah.
to be better than you were yesterday.
So do you have to do GHG reporting with that? Is that what you're
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, through SECA, yeah, you do,
Right,
yeah. So, and then there's the new reporting coming in, ESG coming in 2026 for 2025. So the demands on whether you're a public body or whether you're a private organisation, the demands for your sustainability um, objectives, they're there. There's no getting away from them.
no.
which is great from
Yeah.
my perspective.
Yeah.
Um, but the difficulty at the moment is that whilst that element of responsibility and pressure is increasing, the deadline for net zero is getting ever closer.
Yeah.
That's the worrying thing.
So do you
Um,
use the legislation as a driver within the business? Because it sounds like
sure,
you do.
where it there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I do have a mentality of by any means necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm fortunate again that I have a exec team that completely and utterly understand
Yeah. Yeah.
what is required. I mean, so what you'll have is a lot of people will have made a knee-jerk reaction coming out of COVID. Well, okay, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. We've got to do this. We've got to adopt this technology. We've got to adopt that technology. And let's just take a little bit of a step, slow down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's look at what we've got first.
Yeah.
Let's manage that. Make sure that we are managing that correctly and maintaining that correctly. So as long as you're enabling your equipment to remain efficient, okay, that's still a good win. And then you build in the um, the replacement program. So you're forecasting when you you think that equipment is going to fail, okay, and then you've got a plan of how you're going to replace it, who's going to replace it for you, and that's the sustainable maintenance policy strategy, call it what you will.
Yeah.
So it gives you a really good overview of all of your assets, making sure that you look after them really well, but also making sure that you understand when that asset is going to fail. Yeah. And then from there on in, you start building in more sustainable bits of equipment. And it's understanding then how you degas. That's that's pretty much how I kind of look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because to get to net zero from a scopes 1 and 2 perspective, you've got just getting rid of the gas is monumental. So especially when you look at the amount and size, the number of properties we have, and the size of the properties that we have. Yeah, I'm under no illusion that because I know it's not easy, um, but it's again, it's about having an understanding of what solutions are available to you now,
Yeah.
what is basically starting to come on the horizon, and what is still developing in the background, way down the background. So I still think it's going to be a blend of technologies that gets you to net zero.
Do you have swimming pools and things?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a big chunk of gas
There is
consumption that you're going to need to consider there, isn't there?
already done that. Um, my concern was, could I go down the route of biomass? And I love biomass, to be fair, but under local legislation and where we are, urban, I probably wouldn't qualify.
Right.
Yeah, that but um, what that means is I've got to find another solution. Yeah, um, because we're not rural. I think we would have got away with it had we been. Yeah, but again, I'm just waiting for feedback to say whether or not where we sit along that threshold.
Mm.
But I have spoken to um, a heat pump manufacturer who's done it. Again, I was on the phone on a Teams call with them 2 weeks ago. I'm just waiting for an invite to actually go and see um, a bit of work that they did with a leisure centre. Yeah. So, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. Speak to the end user, understand what their experiences were, any difficulties that they came across. And that's the one good thing about the industry is that if people have done something really well, they're happy to
To share it.
support somebody. And
Yeah.
that is key for me.
Yeah.
you know.
We've seen a lot
Um,
of that since COVID, haven't we? The collaboration and
it,
really working together.
you can't get it done without it, to be fair,
No, no.
because I think once you understand what technologies are going to give you the actual impact that you want, then that becomes the cost, because more and more people are adopting it. The cost then you start to drive it down,
Yeah.
which makes it more easily adoptable, more affordable, because there are organisations out there who cannot afford some of the solutions that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
so
even the research to do to study it,
it's
because, people like yourself leading that, but there's been people leading it before you.
and I'm fortunate, I will say, that I've had some really, really good mentors. And from having those mentors, it's allowed me to create a network, um, that you are able to discuss solutions. You're able to discuss best practice.
Yeah.
You're able to understand what is coming around the corner. Because as one individual, you cannot keep your eye on absolutely everything.
No.
But when you've got a really good network, I think you've got a better chance of being successful.
Yeah. What do you think your day-to-day challenges are within the business? Because obviously you've got eye on the future, net zero. You're mopping up behind. You're juggling a lot of balls here, aren't you? Or spinning
Yeah,
loads of different plates.
you,
Where
you
where,
are.
where are your challenges?
The challenges are, um, so okay. The challenges are understanding, cutting your cloth completely efficiently. So knowing what I can do now, and knowing what I need to be doing next, and knowing what I will have to be doing at some point later on. Um, so when I first came here, literally I had 40 plates spinning, only one pair of hands. Um, so through lots of conversations, do less to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understand what is priority. Yeah. And go and make those changes. And then understand, how that allows you, and everything's connected, Paul, how that gets you to the next step, to pick up the next project, to move that forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just making sure that you understand the clear roles that you've got, and not getting bogged down. There's some stuff you have to say, look, not now,
Mm.
not now. This is my priority. This is what I need to be,
Yeah.
moving forward. Um, and that's where it is. So it's, again, what can I do now? And trying to, um, looking at PV as a solution, looking at where does hydrogen come into the grand scheme of things?
Mm.
Air source heat pumps, yeah. Um, those kind of, trying to bring all of those things together in the right place, just at the right time, to
Yeah.
land you at net zero for, scopes 1 and 2. That's that's where I'm at with it. But it's also trying not to panic.
Is there more than one of you?
There's just me with many hats.
Yeah. But you've got a massive team around you that you can
So
influence
I've
and
got
guide and bring on the journey.
so I've got very good, supported by compliance really well, supported by our maintenance team, and they get it. Yeah. So, and that's all been part of. So one of the things I think that has helped me is that I created working groups here. And those, like I said, those working groups is giving ownership and responsibility to departments and building custodians, to trying to going out there and identifying those things that we could do better, those things that will help the business perform better. Okay. But giving those guys a responsibility. So I remember years ago where it didn't matter who you were, people would come up with really, really good ideas. And you'll know this yourself, Paul, and they will have been ignored or they will have been shot down. And
Yeah.
yeah, but that is a trick missed.
Yeah.
Um, and the way that I see it is that these guys they're in this space on a day-to-day basis. They will see things that I won't. Yeah, and I can't be everywhere. So when we met at the ENCO event, I did the presentation, didn't I, where I said,
That's right. Yeah.
we're in a situation where you now have to have every member of staff, you need to give them a nudge to kind of becoming an energy manager themselves. Tell them to become and encourage them to become an energy manager at home. Yeah. And then hopefully part of that will bleed across in their day to day. And, when I've delivered training internally here, the one thing that I've said is the conversations that we are having now is no different. If you could go off and have another job somewhere else, but you're going to be having this conversation there.
Mm.
Doesn't matter. These conversations are being had the world over. So that for me is and always will be key. Yeah. And then explaining and showing that once they are doing fulfilling their potential, once you start building in the technology element of it and the harmony that comes with that, then for me, they should feel proud that they've helped. And I'm all for giving credit where credit's due.
Mm.
Because like you said, I can't do this on my own.
No,
It's
no.
and that's why people are key.
Yeah.
That's why people are key. And then people will kind of understand changes. While you're looking to put PIRs in these areas, while you're looking to drop your set points and change and match your set points to occupancy, yeah, while you're looking to be more agile and having a wider overview of how each individual building is performing, how the Internet of Things is going to have an impact,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
but change is coming and it is needed.
Yeah. Are you able to share some of the sort of figures regarding the savings? Is there some overview figures of what you've achieved through the people or through technologies or since you've
So
been on board?
So since we've been on board, it's been more the behavioural change, and then getting guys and us managing our equipment better. But I think overall, 45% on water
Right.
since 2017, and we're around 35% since 2017 on gas stroke electricity.
Wow.
Right. So a lot of it is we've gotten smarter. We've got tighter with controls. Um, People are being more informative, so that that's what you want. The working groups,
Yeah.
you need that communication, but
Yeah. You're
people are
feeding
now
it back, feeding it back to them.
100%. So
Yeah.
even if you don't have smart metering, what you've got is smart people communication that will tell you,
Yeah.
and they'll tell you in real time that there's risk out there, and as time moves on, and if I can continue to develop that relationship and empower the responsibility, I think that we've got a good chance of getting it done here. And that is another one of the things that we focus on, because the owner is very keen on and proud of all things Welsh, and that includes its people. So my behavioural change is that it's our people are our responsibility. Okay, they are our responsibility. So it means that we have to educate them and give them the tools to become a modern day or a good environmental citizen, but a modern day individual.
Mm.
Okay, which which is where sustainability and energy management is now being asked of as part of your day to day. Yeah. But also try even having conversations with incoming clients, about how we can have a sustainable event. You can still achieve the sustainable event. You might start here, but could end up here and still deliver exactly the same event,
Yeah.
still deliver an experience for all of your clients.
So the questions you was asking right at the beginning when you entered into this role, do you feel that you've answered that about giving something back?
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, it's, I think people buy people for one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's again creating that relationship, not just with the kilowatt hour, but that making people understand that they're a stakeholder,
mm,
genuinely a stakeholder. Okay, without trying to drive the fear into them
mm,
that this is natural, this is what is expected, this is what everybody else in the world is doing
yeah,
or will be doing one way or the other. Yeah. And for those that are not doing it today, I can guarantee you at some point they will be.
yeah. They've got no choice.
But our job is to try and get you there quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to get you to understand your value and your potential now, today. That's that's how I look at it. If I so in yes, in a word, there you go. Yeah, I think I've done all right for.
Yeah, I think so. And then where does the future lead this? What, you've done so much already, and there's still lots to do, isn't
Oh,
there?
still loads to do. Um, what's next? You just got to keep going. That's
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
next. I've got several projects now. Um, that I've had floating about, can no longer have them floating about. The behavioral change is taking place, and that's going to always keep going. So now it's bringing the technology in, bring it
yeah,
in, right? But then make savings, publish those savings internally, show the guys the benefits of what we're doing and why we're doing, the
yeah,
benefits of what they're doing, yeah, and also the benefits of why we have the investment, okay, but also how yes, the switch it off culture, but looking after everything that we've got.
mm,
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everything's an ecosystem, whichever way you look at it. Everything is an ecosystem. So I've got a responsibility to make sure that I'm looking after um, each individual property to make sure that whatever we do does not carry a negative impact beyond our boundaries, doesn't carry a negative impact with inside our boundaries, but also to get individuals to understand that for every action that there's a reaction. Okay. But if it's a positive one, then it's a minimal negative environmental impact.
yeah,
So that's a positive.
yeah.
And that, yeah, that's, yeah, that's pretty much it, I
So
think.
Fitz, it's come to that time in the interview where I like to put you on the spot, and
Oh, great.
you love being on the spot. Look at you now. You've really embraced this, and even this interview has been very sort of insightful. Is there anything you can give back to our industry? And we have many energy managers, and we have energy experts listening to this, and it's always great to hear it straight from the organisation's sort of thoughts.
I, look, I think with this net zero deadline looming, I think let's not panic is the one thing. Um, but it's better to do something than nothing at all.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, so understand what the road looks like, the journey looks like, and slowly push. Slow and steady wins the race. And I've always liked that saying. So understand what you've got now, take care of that. Okay. And then when you start to make changes, the mentality and the attitude doesn't change. Always look after what you've got. Because if you look after it, it'll look after you,
yeah, yeah.
regardless of what that is. Whether that's people or whether that's an asset. It doesn't matter. But that's it. Like I said, we're all an ecosystem and we're all just trying to thrive.
Yeah.
So that's how I
And
kind of
and when
look at
you're
it.
impacting on those resources, the net effect of that is a benefit to the organization, isn't it? If you're going
Oh,
to make
massive,
savings and the
massive,
planet, obviously.
massive. But whatever you do as an individual, whatever you do as a group, yeah, it's about making sure that the positives. So from my perspective, we get looked at from external inward about the things that we do, um, which is great because it keeps us honest. But what my objective is to try and make whoever the observer is, that what they see is more positive environmentally than we are negative,
Yeah.
and that we are showing that we are trying to do better day after day. So, and that's the romantic version of it, if I'm honest.
I like the word. You've actually made this very romantic, actually, what you've done. The passion is leading there. And I think that's what you've done. You've led all this from your passion. And I asked you about your background, and it's
Yeah.
good to see the transition data, which is
Oh,
key. We
oh,
can't manage anything unless we have
you can see it.
got the data exactly. And then the transition to looking at the bills again, reviewing what we've got. And
And I
then
think
you've
that's
come into implementation.
and I think that's where I've always had that interest in wanting to share that information.
Yeah.
Look at what you guys did for your building last month against what you did last year. Okay. Because especially if you can show signs of improvement and you
Mhm.
go, and I'm like I said, I'm a fan of giving credit where credit's due,
Yeah.
because you need people to want to take ownership, to understand what they're doing and what the effects are, and to trying to do better as a business, trying to do better as a person, more importantly. But
Exactly.
then, yeah, that's a knock-on effect that the business does well.
Yeah.
So that's the win.
Yeah. Well, Fitz, I'd like to say on behalf of the industry, thank you today. It's been very enlightening listening to yourself and hearing your journey. Um, thank you. And it's a bank holiday. So again, double thank you from me for making that time for the industry today.
My pleasure, Paul. Thank you for asking.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Fitz, please, you and your family stay safe in these times.
Likewise.